Want to say hi? Wave. Say hi. What are you eating? What are you eating? Come here. Say hi. Hi, Lincoln. This is Lincoln. Hey, camera's this way. Hey, hey. Hey guys, so today I thought I would film a video based off of the overwhelming amount of questions I've gotten over the years and even more now that my kids are modeling. When I post pictures on social media, I have a lot of moms reaching out to me asking, you know, how did you get your kid into modeling and what can I do to get my kid into the industry? And they ask me so many questions, and which I'm totally fine with. And I like to spend a lot of time responding to people because I wish I had that guidance and that advice when I was starting out, so I knew what to look out for and what to expect. And here I am 13 years later, and I myself have modeled for 13 years. I modeled also when I was pregnant with my two kids, which are 2 and 9 months now, and um, my kids have also modeled. So that's why I'm getting even more questions, even more now than ever. So I thought I'd just make a video and address everything and go and give you advice based off of my own experience. So in this video, I am going to address a lot of the questions that a lot of you have. A lot of my friends have reached out to me asking how to get their child into the industry, and this video is going to be more informative, and I just want to let you guys know what to expect, the reality of the industry, how to find an agent, and the major life changes you're going to have to make if you want to make this work. So first I do want to start off with what to expect. And the first question would be, where do you live? Do you live within an hour and a half to 2 hours of a major city where all the auditions and the jobs are going to be? Because if you live in, a place that's 3 hours away, 5 hours away, that's not going to be realistic. So you want to just think about that. And if you live in a major market, of course, in Los Angeles or New York or near Miami, and I know there's other parts of America that do have, work, which it may not be as much as the major markets, but it's still something, but it wouldn't hurt to look into it. But for me, I was born and raised in Southern California, so my experience is mostly in Los Angeles. So a lot of the advice I'm going to give you, it's just more, I of course know more about the Los Angeles market. So, but it's going to be pretty much the same in a lot of other places, because when you're in a major city, there's always going to be traffic. So you also have to take that into consideration. For me, I live in Orange County and I commute, and it's already bad enough. I've commuted for years. Like I said, I've been doing this for 13 years now, and I've commuted, and it's already bad enough sitting in traffic as an adult and it's just you. But when you have a screaming baby or a screaming child in the back, that's not a fun ride for anybody. So that's something that you're gonna have to deal with. And even if you do live in LA, getting to the other side of town still takes anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. They do have direct bookings, but generally you do have to go on an audition or a casting, and then they have a callback and or a fitting, and then you have to come back again for the job. So you can be driving back to that same location or back to the city anywhere from 3 to 4 times just for one job. So, you also have to take that into consideration. And it's something that you have to think about the rate and how much you're being paid, and then you think about the time that you have spent on the road and traffic looking for parking and getting to the location. With children, of course, depending on how old they are, then they need to take naps. And a lot of the times they don't, I think out of all of the jobs I've worked with my kids, only one client has asked, and which I thought was so sweet, because in the industry you don't expect people to care about your own schedule and your own life. They just expect you to show up and be. I did have one client ask, what is your kids nap time schedule? When do they wake up, when do they take a nap, and when do they go to sleep? So they gave us our call time based off of my kids' nap time. So, but in general, they'll just give you a call time and you just have to show up. It doesn't matter if it's right in the middle of your kid's nap time. You have to plan ahead of time and try to make sure your kid either sleeps in, and they don't get tired until later, or try to get them to wake up earlier in the day so that they will fall asleep, hopefully on the car ride. Another reality of the industry is rejection. And rejection alone is already hard enough, but when you get it on a daily and a weekly basis, whether it's agents turning you away, whether it's you going on auditions and nobody's hiring you, and it's hard to, they don't, some of the people, like when you are looking for an agency, they will say no right to your face, or they, will reject you right then and there. However, if you go on an audition, then you just don't book the job. And then you start doubting yourself and you're thinking, am I not good enough? What's wrong with me? And it's hard, and it's already hard enough, at being an adult and experiencing rejection. And there are some jobs that you really, really want, or some agencies you really want to sign with, and then they will just turn you away. But when one door closes, another one always opens. So I want to say, don't give up. If it's something that you really want, if it's something that your child really wants, then just keep trying, because eventually and hopefully it will work out for you. But I do believe that even though rejection is hard, especially for a child, because they don't understand or they don't know how to deal with it as well as an adult, it over time it will teach them, okay, it's okay to be rejected, because how are we going to move on from this? And like I said earlier, when one door closes, another one opens. So, and you have to look at yourself and say, okay, like, not putting yourself down or putting your child down and, oh, something's wrong with you or something's wrong with me. Don't let it hurt your confidence. It's just, you do have to think, okay, did I say the wrong thing? Did I say something inappropriate in the casting? Was I not prepared with my lines? Was I not prepared with my measurements? Or was I not prepared with my headshot? Was I late? Was I rude? You just have to think about, it's giving yourself constructive criticism to try to make yourself better. So with kids, it does teach them all of those things. It teaches responsibility, and it helps build confidence, even though it's kind of, when you think about it, yes, you're getting rejected, but it does build confidence in a way. So another thing that I want to tell you to look out for are scams. And I feel like these days, with Google being your best friend and you can look up anybody and anything, I think it seems like the amount of modeling agencies that are scams should be on the decline, but I know they are still out there. And what a real agency does not do, they do not ask for money up front. They don't promise to make your child a star and say, pay us all this money and we're gonna do this and do that and give them classes and whatever and make your child a star. And you don't, with a real agency, you don't pay money up front. You don't pay money to be part of the agency. You do, I will tell you which things you do have to pay for, but you don't pay out of your own pocket ahead of time. They take it out of your check after you have worked a job. So they will charge you for, like, for example, my agencies, at the beginning of every year in January, my first check that they send to me, they take out $100, and it's the website fee, and that's just them managing my pictures online and sending my pictures to clients, and that's a pretty decent price to pay your agent, besides of course the 20% they take out at every check. But that's just them basically managing your profile online. So that's $100. And then also with headshots and photo shoots, in order to get updated pictures, you don't need to pay a lot of money for that. And in fact, a lot of agents will set up test shoots where it's basically on a trade basis, where a photographer needs to build their book and then they need a model, and then a model needs to build their book and they need a photographer. So they work hand in hand, and that's free because it's a test shoot. So you don't need to pay a lot of money up front to be part of an agency. And if anybody ever asks you to do that, then just turn around and walk out that door, because that is not the right agency for you. And like I said earlier, Google is your best friend. So always Google every company that you think you want to be a part of before you sign anything. Finding an agent is the first step, of course, in your career, if that's the route you decide to go. Some people may decide to manage themselves, because I do know that in Los Angeles, they have a casting network online called LA Casting, where if you're not, first of all, my agencies use that to manage my profile and submit me on jobs and submit my children for jobs. But there's also an option, if you want to manage yourself, then you can create a profile and upload your headshots and your resume, and you could submit yourself. But I think it's you pay a monthly fee, and I don't know exactly how much that is, but it's not anything over the top. It's don't quote me on this, but it's definitely less than 100, but I want to say it's like 20 or 50 bucks, 25 or 50 bucks a month. And you can go in and submit your headshot to a lot of clients that post job opportunities on that website. But that's if you want to manage yourself. But for me, I'd rather have somebody else do the work for me. And of course, they make 20% off of my check, but I would rather sit back and have them book me on jobs and, work for me. If you're going to take pictures of your kids to send to an agency, you have to take a full body and an up close headshot, and make sure they don't have drool on their face, and make sure that's all wiped off and clean. They don't have a black eye, they don't have scratches on their face. You know, they have to wear neutral clothing. Don't take pictures of your daughter in a princess dress and send it to an agency, because that's just, then they're like, oh, she's one of those moms, like, you know. So just put your kid in something normal. Don't try to be over the top. Don't try to stand out. Don't be a pageant queen mom. So just very basic, no crazy patterns, and oh, and taking pictures outside is the best because it's natural lighting, and try to take it in front of a background like an interesting wall, or just at the park in front of some rose bushes, or just something very basic. Don't take it in front of the playground or with him coming down the slide. Just take a very basic picture. And if you don't know what headshot looks like, then I will insert a picture of both of my kids' headshots right here. Only send 2 to 3 pictures to the agency. You don't need to send 20 pictures, because no agent is going to spend the time looking through all those pictures. So pick the best of the best. Like I said, take a headshot and take a full body and a 3/4 shot from the waist up. And within your submission, put your child's age, their hair color, their eye color, their height, and their weight, and also all their measurements, and then their shoe size. Below, I'm going to list, I was doing a little bit of research because the agency my kids are signed with is the agency that I've been with since I was 16 years old. So I've been with them for a very long time, but I don't know a lot of the newer agencies out there for kids. And when I do work jobs, some of the other moms are with different agencies, so I've kind of heard who they were with. But I found an article with the 10 best agencies for kids. I found it online, so I'm going to list all of those down below. And I'm sorry to the rest of you who do not live in Southern California, but this is where I live, this is where I work. I don't want to make any suggestions for places in New York or a state that I'm not familiar with. So you can go ahead and do your own research on that. After you've taken some good snapshots of your children and you've narrowed it down to the top 2 or 3, then either you mail the pictures or through snail mail, or you email them. So you look up the list of all the agents you want to send them to, and then you pick the pictures you want, and then you write down all of your information, your child's information, their age, all their measurements, their clothing sizes, and you send that off to the agencies, and they will either not respond or they will politely decline, or hopefully they will reach out to you and say, I want to set up a meeting with you and your child so we can meet them in person. And if you do get that meeting, of course, make sure you're on time. Always make sure you're on time, because in the industry, people don't have time to wait. Time is money. So I get a lot of the times with children, things could be unexpected, but you still always want to leave your house early and give yourself enough time just in case there is traffic, to find parking, and to just, if your child needs a diaper change or whatever they need, just make sure you leave yourself enough time, and it never hurt anybody to be early. The next question I'm sure everybody's wondering is, how much does it pay? So this part may hurt all of your dreams, just kidding. But realistically, I'm just being very honest with you. You're not, unless your child is like 1 in a million, or like Mary-Kate and Ashley, and they just so happen to like get on a very successful TV show and look at where they are today. But that doesn't happen with every single child. So there's a lot of laws that are in effect to protect children and to make sure that they are not overworked. So depending on their age, they can only work a certain amount of hours per day. And this is another thing that, don't quote me on this, but I believe if a child is either from birth to 4 or 6 months, they could only be on set for 2 hours in one day. And then above that, it goes up to 4 hours. And then as they get older and older, then they can be on set a little longer. So a lot of jobs are paid hourly, and that is great. For me as a working model, as an adult, I loved working hourly jobs, because sometimes you're there for 8 to 10 hours, and some of the jobs I made the most on was those jobs that paid hourly, because as time goes on, then you just make more money. It's not just a day rate and you're there and who knows how long. Whether you're there for 2 hours or 10 hours, you still get paid the same amount. So if your hourly rate is $100, but your child could only be on set for 2 hours, that's only $200. And then your agent takes out their 20%. That's not anything over, your child's not gonna be a millionaire working these few jobs. But that's why you do have to ask yourself, what are you in it for? Do you think that your child is gonna help you retire, or are you saving up for their college fund, or are you just doing it as a hobby? And any of those reasons it's totally fine. But for me and my children, I'm not making them work to pay the bills. It's just something that we do every now and then it's kind of for fun, so I would consider it a hobby. And the little bit of money they make, I do put away for them. And that's another thing I want to tell you. Once your child does start working, by law, you have to set up a Coogan account. And Coogan is spelled COOGAN. And not all banks offer that. And in fact, even banks that do offer it, a lot of the people that work at the bank don't even know how to set it up, because unless you're in LA, and they do that all the time for child actors and models. But and that's another thing, is do not go in there with your kids, because it's going to take an hour and a half to do it. And so with the Coogan account, at least the bank that I opened it at, they need proof that you are with an agent, or that they have an upcoming job to even open the account. So with the Coogan account, by law, you have to put a certain percentage of their check into the account, and the children cannot touch that until they're 18 years old. So they, by law, they set that up because there's, I'm sure, a lot of parents out there that make their kids work and they take all of the money for themselves and they don't give anything to their child, even though they're, yes, the parent does work, you know, because we're the ones that take them to the auditions and take them everywhere. But it really is the child that they're hiring, so you do want to put, at least give them a portion. So what I do is I put a certain percentage that I have come up on my own. By law, there is a certain percentage that you have to put into the account. But for me, I have my own percentage because I still make them, like when I upload pictures to their LA casting, which is like $35, I still make it like it's a business for them. Even though they're nine months old and 2 years old, I still make it like a business, like how my mom did it. If she paid for something for me that I used to further my career, then I would pay her back with my next check. So I still make the kids, I take it out of their check and make them pay for it. So as they get older, they learn how to maintain their finances, and they also learn that there's no such thing as free lunch. Like they, you know, they still have to pay for their expenses. They still have to pay rent. Just kidding. So, so yeah, so that's another thing you have to remember, that you have to go set up a Coogan account. Another thing I want to be upfront about that may kind of surprise you guys is that the larger companies, they pay less than some of the smaller companies because they know that a lot of people would be willing to work for them and with them for free, just for the bragging rights, just to put that on their resume. And the companies know that, so they pay less. For example, me, I worked for a major magazine years ago, and when my agent called me and said you booked it, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, first of all, I was excited because obviously it was a major magazine, and then also I thought it was gonna pay amazingly well. And then when they sent me the rate, I was like, wait, is that a joke? It was $175. And then after my agent took out their 20%, that's nothing. But then after the fact, I said, okay, whatever. And then when the magazine came out, I had my tear sheet, and it's still cool to talk about. But these big companies, they know that people would be willing to work for free, so they just pay a low rate. So that's something I just want to warn you about. So if your baby books Baby Gap, don't think that they're going to get paid 20 grand, which that would be nice, but that's not realistic. Depending on where your child is at in their modeling career and also how old they are, if they're in school, then I would never ever tell anybody or condone, because people asked me this in the past. They would say, oh, do you think that I should put my child on independent study so we can try to get him into the modeling industry? And I would always say, no, absolutely not. That's not the way that it goes. You have to get to the point in your career where you're always working and you could only make so many excuses to your school as to why you're missing class, and then you take them out of school. You don't take them out of school in hopes that they're going to become a star. So for me, halfway through high school, when I was 16 years old, once I got my driver's license and I was able to drive to all the auditions and all the jobs, and I didn't have to rely on my mom to take me, then I did have a lot more freedom, which meant that I was even busier. So I could only tell my teachers that I was going to the doctor or the dentist so many times before they said, something's up and we don't believe you, so you need to figure it out. You need to come to class. So I looked into independent study, and there was a program in my city that you have to apply for, you have to be accepted, and it's for working kids. It's not like kids who have a part-time job at McDonald's. It's for kids that are either heavily involved in sports and they're traveling a lot, or they're always practicing, or for actors, or for models, or if you're doing something that they approve of to leave high school and go on independent study, then they have that program available. So what they do, at least for my program, is they give you one subject at a time. So for example, they would give you your history book and your history packet and all the tests, and you would go in to class once a week and they would give you all the work for that week. But when I would go in, I would ask for the work for the entire textbook, because I just wanted to sit down and 1 week and knock it all out, because I think each subject took about a month to a month and a half to finish. But I said, give me all the work, and in 1 week I would get an entire subject done. I would turn in all the work, I would go into class and take all the tests in one day. I think it was one day, or like within 1 or 2 weeks, I would go in and get everything done that was required for that subject. And so I just kept knocking past all the different subjects, and then I eventually graduated early, so I can just continue on doing what I was doing in the modeling industry before I started college. So a few of the times when I was working certain jobs, then people would ask me how old I was, and they would say, "Oh, aren't you supposed to be in school?" Or, how does that work when you're like, are you homeschooled? And I would always say, yes, I'm on independent study. And then they would say, don't you miss that high school life? You're gonna miss prom, you're gonna miss homecoming, you're gonna miss that high school experience. And I had to stop and think about it. And then that specific job was for the San Diego Zoo, because they had just put in a zip line going over the entire safari park. So I was getting paid, and I don't know if this is like, low class or trashy to talk about how much I made, but I feel like this is a good example. So I'm getting paid $500 to ride across over wild animals, so they could take a picture of me for their pamphlet or for their website, whatever. Uh, like, would I rather be in class or getting paid to do something that people pay to do for fun? So I said, no, absolutely not. And I was a different type of student. Or for me, I've always acted older, and I've always been able to teach myself, and I was able to structure my life without having anybody hovering over me telling me what to do. So some people need that classroom environment. They need a teacher telling them what to do every day and what's due the next day, and checking your homework. And I never needed that. I was always on my own pace, and I was able to handle everything and keep everything organized. So I would not suggest somebody who has a child that has trouble staying organized, or somebody who needs a lot of guidance, especially when it comes to school. I would not suggest that, because on independent study, you are expected to handle all of your own business, because you are treated as a young adult and you need to be mature. And now that we're talking about maturity levels, you don't have to act like a 30-year-old when you're 10, but you have to have a child that can handle themselves in an environment that they're not used to, and they just can't be off, like not taking direction and running around doing whatever they want to do, because that's not it's hard to get the shot. But of course, if you have a baby or a toddler, where when you say something to them, they don't understand you, and you can't say, stop crying, and then they listen to you. So a lot of the jobs, especially the ones that I've worked on, they have a backup baby, and they'll dress them in the same outfit. So they'll put one baby in front of the camera and shoot away, take all the pictures, and if that baby's not being cooperative and they're crawling away or they're crying, then they'll say, okay, bring in the backup. So that's how they handle babies who are unpredictable. Well, all babies are unpredictable. All kids, like toddlers, are unpredictable. So they're prepared for that. So don't expect to go in with your 10-month-old baby and be nervous, because it's like, oh my gosh, is my baby gonna cry? And I don't want to be embarrassed, because go through that all the time. They expect it. So, but you do have to ask yourself, can my child sit in front of a camera and be okay with it? Is he, once you put him down, is he gonna say, no, I want my mommy, and not want to sit there, or start crying because they're so attached to you? So if you have a child like that, then it may not be the right time. I'm not saying you never have to, that you can never get into it, but it's just not the right time. So for my oldest, he did some modeling when he was younger, but he had one big casting for H&M that I was very confident that he would book it, because the casting directors were so excited to see him. They're like, oh my gosh, Roman, we saw your pictures, we love you, like, we're very excited that you're here, and that that we get to take pictures of you, and whatever. So basically we got there, I was like, oh yes, so it was worth the drive up here. But at that time I was 7-8 months pregnant, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Roman like switched. He's like, oh my gosh, I cannot be away from mom. So in the audition, the photographer wanted to just put the kid on a bench and take a picture. So that was a true test to see if the child would be okay to do that. So I put him down, and of course, normally he would be totally fine with that, but I put him down and he immediately started crying. I was like, no, 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 I want mommy. And then he was trying to jump off the bench. And so they said, okay, take him away, feed him, entertain him, do whatever. We'll shoot a few more children and come back. So took him away and then went back. He did the same thing and then tried it again the third time. He did the same thing. So I took him in, and we didn't even take any pictures really. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to go home. I'm sorry. And then on the way home, I called my agent and I told her what happened. And I said, I knew this time would come, and now is the time to take Roman off of your board, because he is at the point that he is going to be very needy, and he's getting into the tantrum stage. So let's just put that on hold for right now. She said, okay, perfectly fine. Just let me know when he's ready. So you just have to know your child, and if you pick up on things, then you can try it one or two more times and see if it's just like, if it was just that day. But for me, I already knew it was coming, so I just immediately pulled away from it. And then I had my second baby, and then eventually I got my second baby into it, and he's still at the stage where he's okay to not have me there. And he listens to direction, kind of. He doesn't listen to it, but when you put him somewhere, he'll stay there for a few shots, but then he is so active he just wants to crawl away, or he gets distracted and he sees toys, or he sees this, he sees that, and he wants to go away. So in my mind, I'm already like, okay, he's not going to be able to do this for long, so I need to hurry up and book him on as many jobs as possible. So just read off of the cues from your children. You know your child best. And if it's not something they want to do, if they're younger and they don't even know what's going on, then don't force them to do it if you see that they're uncomfortable with it. But as your child gets older, then you can have that conversation with them and say, is this something that you want to do? Or is it something that you want to continue doing? Because if they don't force them to do something that they don't want to do, because then they're going to have resentment towards you. And I don't know anybody personally, but I know it does happen where parents want to live vicariously through their kids. So please, please, please do not force your kid to do anything that they do not want to do, because that's going to create lifelong problems for them and your relationship. So always have an open relationship or an open communication with your children, and just see where they're at. So, because you never know if the hobby turns into something bigger and they land a role that you've been hoping for, and it's consistent work and they are making more money, then we've all seen it with child stars. It could be a bad thing. So just make sure your child has a good head on their shoulders, and try to keep them grounded, and try to make them stay humble, because even with social media these days, if anybody gets an ounce of fame, and I swear I know people like this, where I knew them before social media, and then now that they have, all these followers, or they think they're famous, and then they want to try to act like all brand new with you. Like, no, sweetie, you're just Instagram famous, or you're just, yeah, you were on this TV show, but that doesn't make you any better than anybody else. So just make sure that everybody stays humble, like your kid stays humble. And as a parent, you want to be proud of your kids, but don't, you know, kind of brag about it a lot, or don't rub it in other people's faces. So just always, and if other people have questions, like for me, this is why I'm making this video, because so many people have questions and I want to help everybody. And if people want to try it out, I want to steer them in the right direction, and I want to give my own advice. And I really hope that my advice and my guidance kind of helped you a little bit. Even if it's a little bit, that's still enough for me, because I wish I had this at the start of my career. And I'm always open, and I'm willing to take any questions that you guys have, any extra questions outside of this video that I have not answered. And like I said earlier, I'm going to post the top 10 agencies for kids down below, just in Los Angeles. And I just want to say good luck to you all, and feel free to reach out to me regarding any other question or topic that you may have. So that's all for now. Bye. Good luck, everybody. Baby, come here. Baby, look. Stop. Say hi, Roman. Roman. Uh-oh. Roman, say hi. Uh-oh.